Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Cast a Dice Warhammer Podcast. This is episode 12. I'm here with Wayne and Caramon again. We lost Dennis this week. He's currently engaged in some D&D debauchery, so we miss him much, but I wish him luck in his endeavors. He should be back with us on the next show. This episode is a bit delayed. A lot of people have been going on vacation for the summer. I know I was one of them. There's been a lot of scheduling snafus between work and vacations and whatnot, but I'm glad to be back with everybody on here to talk about some Warhammer. I mean, while we've been away, not a whole lot's happened in the world of Warhammer or 40k. I know the new General's Handbook came out recently for Age of Sigmar. That's actually going to be getting covered in a episode coming later this week from Rob and Dan, who are new additions. Rob's been on here for a few episodes, but Dan's brand new, so they're going to be taking over the Age of Sigmar side of things, so they'll be talking about that in a couple days, so look forward to that. Besides that, in the world of 40k, just in time, Chaos Knights went on pre-order this weekend, and that's pretty much what this episode's going to be about. They went on pre-order. I pretty much have the whole codex in front of me, so we could go through the codex, talk about it a bit, and we could talk about Chaos Knights and see how they're going to impact the meta, and whether or not we think they're going to shake things up, or really just what they're going to do for Chaos in general. So, without further ado, Caramon, Wayne, how are you guys feeling about Chaos Knights?
They look cool.
They do indeed look cool.
I am actually hyped, despite my general dislike for knights on the Imperial side, so...
So what's with the Imperial...
I guess I'm just biased.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's with the Imperial racism? You're okay with Chaos Knights, but not Imperial Knights.
Yeah, it's just I'm biased against Imperials, I suppose. I didn't want to do knights, though, and it's just basically the Knight Rampager won me over by being badass in the artwork department. So,
yeah, it's kind of hard to ignore. I mean, we're going to go through pretty much the whole book. There's a lot of good things in it. I don't think they're quite on the level of Imperial Knights, but I do think they're going to do a lot for Chaos lists. The biggest difference being Chaos Knights seem a lot more melee-centric compared to their Imperial counterparts, and right now shooting is the best thing in 40k, so being melee-centric doesn't do you many favors. However, they are really good at it, so they're still going to have a place. What that place is, there's going to be a lot of testing. I know myself, I went out and bought a knight yesterday to make it to spoiler. I'm also planning on buying 2 Armigers because, like the Imperial Knights, you don't get all the benefits if you just run them in a super heavy Ox detachment. So a lot of people, you're going to start seeing a lot more super heavy detachments in Chaos lists with the advent of Knights. To start, we'll obviously talk about the new models. I'll start with this. Unfortunately, the Knight Tyrant, which is the Dominus equivalent, your Castellan, your Valiant, there's not going to be any new models for that. That is going to be using the normal Imperial model, and it's the same exact loadout. It's called a Knight Tyrant, but you can only equip it as a Castellan or you can equip it as a Valiant. So there's no mixing and matching weapons on the Knight Tyrant like you could do with the Questoris equivalent. So if you want your Castellan, if you want your Valiant, they fit into a Chaos list now. They're much the same. They're roughly the same points as if not the exact same points as the Imperial counterpart, it looks like. So there's literally no difference there. It's just one war scroll, and you choose which loadout you want. So there's that. Besides that, the other non-new knight would be the Knight Despoiler. Now this is your Questoris equivalent. So your Gallant, your Errant, your Paladin, your Crusader, all those builds, that can go on the Despoiler. The interesting thing about the Despoiler is, unlike the Imperial version, you could double up on weapons. This was in the Chaos Index, and it retained through the Codex. I know a lot of people were worried about that, so I'm glad to see that they kept that little nuance. It helps separate Chaos from Imperials. So you can have your double battle cannons, your double Avenger Gatling cannons, all that jazz. It's looking pretty good. The Despoiler can also take 2 melee weapons and still gets the 2+ weapon skill and +1 attack like its Gallant counterpart. Which is interesting when we talk about the Rampager, which is another melee-centric knight, but it's one of the new ones. But we'll get there in a little bit. So that's the Questoris equivalent. And then we've got the War Dogs, which are the Armigers for Chaos. Again, no new model for the Armigers, unfortunately. Uses the Imperial kit, and just like the Valiant, it's one War Scroll, but you can equip it either as your Helverins with the 2 autocannons or as your Warglaive with the Melta and Chainsword. So, the interesting thing about that is you can take them in groups of up to 3, but you can mix and match. So you don't have to have a full unit of Warglaives, you don't have to have a full unit of Helverins. You could have 1 Chainsword, 1 Melta, and 1 double autocannon. So that makes it a little bit different, but still they are locked to those loadouts. I don't really like that they didn't get models. I understand why it might have been. I would have liked to have had at least a upgrade sprue released to make them look like the new Knights, the other new kits that are coming out. Fortunately, they're going to stick out without some converting. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
I hate it. I really think either the new kit needs to have enough bits and pieces to add to the other one, which, looking at the sprue, it doesn't look like it has, but it might, or something. But having it just look like a regular Knight, and then you have, your badass looking Chaos Knight that has like the skulls and the spikes and everything, I don't think it's going to be a good idea. I think they missed out on that.
Yeah. I think an upgrade sprue would have fixed a lot of things. I mean, there is one from Forge World, so I'm going to be buying that one for my Questoris Knight because I'm planning on running 2 autocannon War Dogs and a double rapid-fire battle cannon Questoris equivalent, a Despoiler. Probably just going to buy the Forge World upgrade sprue so he at least looks chaosy. There's not much I really feel like doing for the Helverins, but they're a little smaller, and I play Iron Warriors, so they're not really that mutated to begin with, so I should be able to pass it off with a decent paid job. It's just a shame, though, that there's no, especially for the Armigers, I think an upgrade sprue would have been nice, considering there's not a Forge World equivalent like there is for the Questoris. I think the biggest one that's going to stick out is the Valiant and the Castellan, because they're pretty big, cumbersome models, so you're going to have to do a lot of converting to make them look good. I don't know, Caramon, how do you feel about it? You played Thousand Sons, so you're not really that mutated either, really.
Yeah, it's mostly going to be paint job for the Armigers, I'm afraid, in my case. I really wish there was at least make it somewhat in line with the Rampager and the Desecrator.
Yeah.
And also somewhat complained about you retaining the Imperial leg form, because I really think the Chaos one looks better.
Yeah.
For the Forge World upgrade kit, so it's bad, just bad.
Yeah. Now, going on that, the big thing that's coming out along with this book is the 2 new Knight kits, which are the Knight Rampager and the Knight Desecrator. So we could talk about them a little bit now. There's not a whole lot to the Rampager besides the fact that it's a Gallant. It's a Chainsword, Fist, Knight. It's got the cool Chaos look. The only real difference between it is, and there's a bit of miscommunication on this, I believe there's some confusion on its exact point cost, but right now I'm operating under the assumption that it's 305 base plus the weapons, so that puts it at 372 points with a heavy stubber. For the Gallant at a Gallant version of that is at 372 points. The Rampager is 87 points. I think the Rampager could take a heavy stubber, so it's 387, but it can't take carapace weapons. So now, essentially, for the Rampager, you're getting the same exact stats and the same exact loadout as a Knight Despoiler. You're paying 15 points more, but that 15 points more gets you exploding 6s. A lot of people were saying that the Knight Despoiler was going to be 305 with both weapons, and in the Codex, it actually says Knight Despoiler with Chainsword and Fist, 305 points. However, it's in the section that says War Gear not included. Now, why they would put the War Gear in the name, and say that has caused a lot of confusion, because some people think that it's that the war gear is included in the name, so that means that's all the base cost, the 305, and then you're only paying for a carapace weapon and the heavy stubber. But then other people think no. So that might need to be fact. I'm operating under the assumption that you're paying for everything, because then that just puts the difference at 15 points, and then it's just a matter of, do you feel 15 points is worth exploding 6s? The 6s on the Rampager don't explode on the Stomps. That's the big thing that needs to be kept in mind. It only works on the Chainsword and the Fist. So, I mean, Stomps are still really good, and they're still probably what's going to be used most. So will those exploding 6s really be worth it? I don't know. I think 15 points for it is a lot better than the 80 points that it was if the Knight Despoiler is only 305 points. So hopefully that gets figured out soon. But all in all, the Rampager is a new kit. It's got a sweet little new rule to separate it a little bit from the Despoiler. It looks awesome. It does have a good melee loadout, so it's really good at one job. It can't take a carapace weapon, but if you're going to keep it cheap like that, you don't really need one. You're just going to run them into the enemy anyway. So, I don't know. Caramon, I know you were saying you wanted a Rampager. That's what got you into Knights.
It's the Rampager for me. I think 15 points are worth it if you really build him for melee. You can stack like the Vow, the Dreadblade buffs probably. There should be something for melee in there for them.
Yeah.
So, I think those exploding 6s, if applied right, can make a difference.
Yeah.
For 15 points of worth.
I think in a Knight list where you're paying for such big high point models, if you have the 15 points open, you might as well just upgrade to the Rampager, because there's not going to be a whole lot of other things you can buy that could fill points. So
yeah.
So
my current intended list would run me at 1,900 points for like 4 Armingers and 2 Knights. So those 15 might as well, yeah.
Okay. Wayne, how do you feel about it?
I mean, it sounds cool. I honestly, how the other one looks.
Yeah.
But, I mean, visually having it with 2 weapons and everything, like tearing stuff up, that's cool to me.
Yeah. I do think there's going to be a place for the melee knights, because there's a lot of cool buffs and stuff for melee knights that we're going to get to see as we kind of move through this book. They, like I said, they are the central focus of the Chaos Knight Codex, so they'll definitely be better than their gallant counterparts over in the Imperial side of things. So I think it'll take a little bit of testing, but it'll be interesting to see how the melee knights stack up. The other new kit is actually the Knight Desecrator. Now, Wayne, this is the one that you said you were interested in. So what made you interested in the Desecrator?
Personally, I just like visually having a big gun and a big weapon.
Yeah.
It just looks better to me. And the fact that it's got that, the laser destroyer, it just looks badass. Like, its pose is just kind of like, come at me, bro, and I'm gonna, put you in the ground.
Yeah, too bad the gun doesn't actually, do that in the rules. The Desecrator is a very odd duck to me. I really don't like its loadout. It's got the laser destroyer and a melee weapon, so already it's kind of schizophrenic. But now the laser destroyer stats are pretty interesting in that it's... I mean, the overall stats on it are decent, but it's range 60, which is great, but it's heavy D3 shots. So, the average is 2 shots. I mean, I always rolled 1s whenever it's D3 shots, so it'll be at 2 shots if you're lucky. Strength 14, minus 4 AP, D6 damage, and when resolving an attack made with this weapon, a wound roll of 6+ inflicts D3 mortal wounds on the target in addition to any other damage. So, on average, you're hitting twice with 2 shots. I mean, you're going to be hitting on 3s, so you might even miss one of those. So one gets through, God forbid they have an invuln, so you might not even wound. And then if you do manage to wound, and say you even manage to wound with both shots, it's only D6 damage. So on average, you're doing 7 damage. So the Laser Destructor in the fluff is like a Titan killing weapon. It's supposed to be the biggest anti-tank weapon in 40k, and it just does not translate well. You get those 2 wound rolls in, and then you need a 6 to just do the D3 mortal wounds. So you're only getting 2 shots at it, and even if you get the shots at it, you're only doing D3. So everything in this gun is random, from the shots to the damage to the doing the mortal wounds to the mortal wounds themselves. It's just way too all over the place. It's not a gun that I can get behind. The relic version of it, because there is a relic version, is slightly better in that it's flat 3 shots, but everything else, it's strength 16, which is nice, so it's wounding land raiders on a 2, and it's AP minus 5, I believe. But again, I mean, that's going to be overkill on most things with an invuln, and it's still only D6 damage with the same 6 up inflicts D3 mortal wounds. So, I mean, you're paying roughly 415 points for it. It does buff armigers, the war dogs. It does the same thing the Preceptor does. It lets them reroll 1s in the shoot phase. So, or just reroll 1s, actually. I don't think it matters which phase it is. But, I mean, as a buff bot, I guess it's okay. I guess it depends on how much mileage you get out of your armigers and how heavy you go on armigers. But if it's just him and two Warglaves or Helverins or whatever, War Dogs, I just can't see him being good. I mean, I'd rather just take a Despoiler and 2 Helverins and call it a day. But I don't know. I'm disappointed in that gun.
Is it only that one that buffs them? The Rampager doesn't?
No, the Rampager does not. He's just a melee beat stick.
Gotcha. I mean, that brings up an interesting point that they have too many random stats on weapons, like random shots, random damage. It doesn't make sense. Something like this should have been D3 plus 3, something to at least give you average, above average shots. So if you roll really great, it's, oh wow, I rolled really great. Even D3 shots is fine, you know?
Yeah.
But if it's like it being D6, it really, really sucks when it's like, oh, I rolled 1 shot. Oh, I wounded. I rolled a 1 for damage. It's like, oh, you just wasted your shot.
Yeah. If I was gonna make that gun into 40k, I would make it flat 3 shots base and 6 damage flat base, because the kind of gun it is, and because it's only 3 shots, you're maybe only getting 1 through, but it's supposed to be a Titan killing weapon, so it should do 6 damage. I mean, the melee weapons on these knights are doing flat 6 damage, so I feel like the Laser Destroyer should be doing flat 3 damage, or flat 6 damage. It only makes sense to me. There's plenty of guns that do a lot more ridiculous damage, so I just don't see because there is a very good possibility that you will shoot an intercessor with this gun and you might not even kill it. Like, if you get 2 shots through, we'll say on average you get those 2 shots through, there is a chance that you will only wound with 1 of those shots, and then you will roll 1 for the damage. So, and you could fail to kill an intercessor with the Laser Destroyer. I don't think that should ever be a thing. I think a weapon like that should not ever just do 1 damage. It just doesn't make sense to me. But you don't pay anything for it. It is 0. It comes with the Desecrator, so you're only really paying for the Chainsword. So, I mean, at 415, I guess it's going to take some testing. I don't know. I don't see it being good, but I'd love if somebody proved me wrong. I think the only way to run it is going to be with the Relic, because D3 shots just, I can't get behind that. So, who knows? That's pretty much all the units that are in the Codex, though. The Spoiler, the Tyrant, the War Dogs, and then the Rampager and Desecrator. The Desecrator's base cost is 385 plus its War Gear, so it'll be plus its Chainsword or Gauntlet. So it's either going to be 415 or 420, depending on which melee weapon you choose. The Knight Despoiler is based at 285, and it gets the whole gamut of weapons. The Knight Despoiler with the Reaper Chainsword and Thunderstrike Gauntlet is base 305 plus its weapons. So like I said, that puts it at roughly, looks like 372 with a heavy stubber. The Rampager base 320, and again you have to add the gauntlet and the chainsword. So again you're looking at 385 for the Rampager, which isn't bad for what it does. The Knight Tyrant 500 points base, and then you're still paying for the big guns on it. So your Thunder Coil Harpoon and all that stuff, the Volcano Lance, anything you want to put on it, whichever variation you want to make it, you're still going to be paying for that. The War Dogs are 160 with base, and then they add on their weapons. So the Reaper Chainsword 30 points, Thunderstrike Gauntlet 35 points, Avenger Gatling Cannon 85 points, Cannon Laser Destructor 0 points, Rapid Fire Battle Cannon 90 points, Thermal Cannon 55 points, War Dog Auto Cannon 5 points, Heavy Stubber 2 points, Iron Storm Missile Pod 16 points, Melting Gun 14 points, Plasma Decimator 40, Shield Breaker Missiles 15, Storm Spear Rocket Pod 45, Thermal Spear 0, Conflagration Cannon 0, Heavy Flamer 14, Thunder Coil Harpoon 0, Twin Icarus Auto Cannon 20, Twin Melting Gun 0, Twin Siege Breakers 35, Volcano Lance 70. So across the board, the points are the same as the Imperial variant. The only difference is some of the Chaos variants can double up on weapons that the Imperial ones can't. So that's all of the units aside. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the two households. Now there's only two in the Chaos Codex. It's been confirmed. There is only Iconoclast and the Infernals. The Infernals being the Dark Mech affiliated, the Iconoclast being kind of the parodies of the households. They're both really good, so I don't think we suffer from only having two. It's pretty interesting in that one of them I like a lot, and that's the Infernals one. Essentially, you take a roll at the start of, I believe, your movement phase, and every Infernal in the detachment can roll on this table. It's 3 choices, so you roll a d3, and depending on what you roll, or if you roll, you take a damage, and you get that buff associated with that roll. So there's 3 different things that you could do. One is +1 toughness, the other one is +2 to your move, and +1 to charge and advance rolls. And then the third one is +1 to the strength of one of your ranged weapons, as well as +1 damage to that ranged weapon. So if you roll your dice, you get one of those buffs. You could instead choose to take D3 damage, and then you get to choose the buff, which is really cool. That brings up a lot of interesting things, because all of a sudden now you can make your Avenger Gatling Cannon 7 strength, 3 damage. Now it's threatening pretty much every lighter vehicle in the game quite reasonably. Your Rapid Fire Battle Cannon becomes strength 9, so now it's wounding knights and everything on 3s. It's very interesting. It also takes away some of the randomness from the Rapid Fire Battle Cannon in that it gives you D3 +1 damage, so you're guaranteed at least 2 damage on the Battle Cannon, which is pretty big. So it's anywhere from 2 to 4 damage on the Battle Cannon, thanks to that little trait there. And both of those weapons are AP -2, so you're more often than not wasting your AP on invuln saves. So it makes them both very, very solid weapons, and I think this separates the Chaos Knights from the Imperial Knights, in that Chaos Knights, if you're going Infernals, you might actually benefit more from mixing your weapons, because then you could choose, because the trait only works on one weapon at a time, you could choose which weapon you want that buff on at any given time, and then you could split your fire efficiently. I don't know. I like the Infernal household. I don't know. Do any of you guys see yourselves running the Infernal household, or you thinking the other one?
I'd probably do Iconoclast just because it feels better, although I am kind of salty that they didn't give legitimate houses.
Yeah.
I was really, really hoping they had something for, to legitimately do House Divine, because I would have done that, the Slaneshi Night House.
Yeah. I mean, what was that, Cameron?
I was just gonna say I don't really like the mortal wounds on the Infernals. because you're already gonna take most of the fire of the enemy anyway, so adding from yourself is just I can pass up on that, I think.
I'm running a hell right, so it doesn't really bother me any. I'll just heal it.
Yeah, it's just I don't like taking wounds if I don't need to, so I would probably prefer Iconoclast. Yeah.
I mean, it's fair. I just see so much benefit in making those Avenger Gatling Cannon Strength 7 because, I mean, we'll get to it in a little bit, but there's a relic out there that lets you ignore negative modifiers. So all of a sudden, you're just tearing flyers out of the sky with Strength 7 damage 3 shots, with 24 of them. And there's plenty of re-rolls and buffs in this codex, so it's just absurd the amount of damage you can do with these weapons once you get them. Just +1 strength to them puts them in a whole different bracket of effectiveness, so it really makes them efficient weapons. So it'll be interesting. I can see why people might not want to take too much damage, but it just seems like the offensive potential is there, and if you have a list filled with enough threats, it might actually be in your benefit. I know me personally, like I said, I run Iron Warriors. My list actually has, as of right now, because I just made up a new list, it's got the Knight Despoiler with 2 battle cannons and 2 autocannon war dogs. But then the rest of my list is Iron Warriors, and I've got 2 Lord Discordants, 2 Mauler Fiends, a bunch of Cultists, 2 units of Chaos Marines, and various other things. But I've got a lot of threats, so they're definitely going to have some questions. I'm asking a lot of questions, and they're going to have to answer all of them. So it'll be interesting to see. But I know you both mentioned the Iconoclast household. This one is also really good. Definitely good for melee knights. If a model with this ambition made a charge move, was charged, or performed a heroic intervention, add 1 to the model's attacks characteristic until the end of the turn, and the armor penetration characteristic of the melee weapon the model is equipped with is improved by 1 until the end of the turn. For example, AP 0 becomes AP -1. In addition, when an enemy unit fails a morale test while within 12 inches of any models with this ambition, 1 additional model flees that unit. So, already, I mean, really good for melee. You get 1 automatic extra attack, which is great. The leadership thing, making models flee, is okay if it comes up, but that would just be a cherry on top. The big thing here is the armor penetration, in my opinion, because all of a sudden now your AP on your stomps is -3, which is pretty big. I mean, any 3+ saves, unless they have an invuln, is becoming a 6-up save. You got 1 extra attack, so that's 3 more stomps. You put this on a melee knight, you're easily getting up to like 6, 7. You're getting up to 7 attacks easy between this and the Warlord trait. So that's 21 stomps on a Warlord Rampager. Unfortunately, 6s don't explode on stomps, or else that would be just absolutely nuts. But that's a lot of Strength 8, AP -3, D3 damage attacks coming through with just this Iconoclast household. So that'll be interesting. I know you both are looking at running Iconoclast, and Caramon, you said you're getting a Rampager. So if Wayne, if you end up going the same route and get melee knights, man, definitely look into this and the Warlord trait, because that's a lot of attacks. That's like just stomping through orc boys.
It's definitely on my list. I'm pretty much reevaluating my ideas of how I want to approach the game, so I'll have to see what direction that leads me.
Yeah, do some soul searching.
Speaking of orc boys,
Oh no.
yes, take the vow of carnage. More stumps.
That was a very creepy laugh.
It was intended to be.
I just need to point that out there. You're going to scare the children.
Good.
Vow. We can
No,
talk
but
about...
seriously.
Since we're on the Iconoclast anyway, Iconoclast do get vows. They're stratagems that can be used before the battle. There's 3 of them, and I know you just mentioned the Vow of Carnage, so I'll just read this one out right now since we're talking about it. Use the stratagem before the battle. Select 1 Iconoclast household model from your army to declare a Vow of Carnage until the end of the battle. Keep a tally of enemy models destroyed as a result of attacks made by that model, adding 1 to that model's attack characteristic for every 10 models destroyed. That model cannot be selected for the Vow of Dominance or Vow of the Beast Slayer. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. Yeah, that's really good. I mean, as soon as you start stomping through hordes, all of a sudden now you could easily get up to like 30 stomps, and that's going to kill pretty much anything in the game. So
I like that.
yeah, I can't imagine it being bad. I mean, there's nothing it's not good against. Any tanks, infantry, it really doesn't matter. Anything it touches is just going to die. So the good thing about that is if you take that, you can't take Vow of Dominance, which is also really good. The Vow of Dominance is if you are resolving an attack made against a model, any unmodified wound rolls of 1, 2, or 3 always fail.
That one seems really good.
It does seem really good, and there's something that I overlooked before that actually makes it even better. It says unmodified wound rolls of 1, 2, or 3, so that means even if you have +1 to wound rolls from like Vets of the Long War, the 3 still fails.
Also,
I like that.
Yeah, so
also,
1, 2, 3, and 4s will fail.
Also, if you have like reroll failed wound rolls, and usually you would be successful on a 3, you shouldn't get that rerolled, I think.
You don't, because rerolls before modifiers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty
gone.
big, because anything that buffs wound rolls is now that much worse, because whereas you used to be some things could have wounded you on 2s or 3s if you got a +1 to wound, now they just don't. They automatically don't. So if somebody puts a +1 to wound on something, it's not even wounding on 3s anymore, even if it becomes a 4, because it's just unmodified. So any 1, 2s, or 3s are automatic, just no wounds. So that's actually really good. Even without that extra caveat, your strength 9 weapons are now no longer wounding you on 3s. They have to wound you on 4s. So your las cannons, your stuff like that, your las cannon equivalents, they're no longer able to wound you on 3s. So this is arguably one of the best stratagems in the game, I would say.
It also shuts down Smash Captains because those want to get into melee with, like, what was it, strength 12 weapons or something?
Yeah.
So, yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Even better because you're a melee monster yourself and you want to be up there with them anyway, so...
Yeah.
It's like, come at me.
It's very, very good, because now not only are you just saving half of them thanks to... I'm going to talk from the shooting perspective because this wouldn't apply to melee, but for shooting, you're automatically saving half with your 4+ invuln after rotating ion shields or your relic or whatever. So even the half that gets through, only half of them could even have a chance of wounding you because they need to be able to roll a 4, 5, or 6. So that knight just became like 50% more durable with this. I guess 25% more durable with this vow, because 1s and 2s were very rarely ever gonna wound a knight anyway. But removing 3s or 3s +1 is pretty significant. So that's something to keep an eye on. The other one is what is it? It's the vow of
Beastslayer, I think.
Vow of Beastslayer. That's just you get to reroll 1s to wound versus models with 8+ wounds. So, I mean, it's not exciting. It's good if you're going up against somebody with a lot of stuff, like a lot of vehicles or monsters or stuff. But it's not nearly as impactful of the Vow of Dominance or even the Vow of Carnage. So, while good,
well,
it's in a very it's a big fish in a very big pond. So
the good thing is, as it's a pre-game stratagem, you can just pick whatever you need for the fight. So
yeah,
it's not list bound.
Yeah, but each model can only be selected for one vow. So if you want one on one and one on the other, the Vow of Dominance. If you're running an Iconoclast household and you have a shooty guy and a melee guy, the melee guy gets Carnage, the shooty guy gets Dominance, and you should be good to go. I mean, can't really beat that. You could kind of tailor your list pre-game against people, so that's pretty cool. Since we're already in the stratagems, might as well just keep going with them. A lot of them are the same as the Imperial equivalents. I know you got the Ion Aegis, 2 CP, lets you extend a 5+ invuln to things around you. This is pretty good on something like a Valiant or a Castellan equivalent, a Knight Tyrant, because it could give if you're running along Chaos Marines, it could give those cultists 5-up invuln save, which is pretty cool. Makes your cultists actually decently tanky. I don't think it's going to see a whole lot of play, mostly because I don't think the Tyrant is going to see a whole lot of play. I definitely think Chaos Knights are going to want to be faster, more mobile. You're going to see a lot of the Questors and the War Dogs. I don't see a lot of the Tyrants getting played, but yeah.
It's also the final nail in the coffin for the Noctilus Crown, because why bother?
Yeah.
Now, even more than before.
Yeah. Spiteful Demise, 2 CP. You make your Knight explode on a 4+ instead of a 6. Pretty straightforward. Thunderstomp, 1 CP. Titanic Chaos Knight selects one enemy infantry or swarm within 1 inch. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So it's like a 1 CP kind of melee smite. Straightforward. Sky Reaper Protocols, 1 CP. Reroll miss to hit rolls in the shooting phase for a War Dog with War Dog autocannons. So this is pretty good. Being able to reroll all your hits with your War Dogs is nice. This 1 CP stratagem also further makes the Desecrator redundant. I'd rather just, like I said, take the spoiler and use this CP to have my War Dogs re-rolling. So that just another nail in the coffin for the Desecrator, in my opinion. But yeah, straightforward stratagem. We've got the rotate ion shields, so that's the same as the Imperial equivalent. One or 3 CP, depending on what you're using it on. +1 to your invuln save. Still capped out at 4-up. Corrupted Heirlooms, which is the relic stratagem. Tyrannical Court. You can pay for extra knight characters and warlord traits. That will be good in large super heavy detachments where you might want a warlord with the +1 attack warlord trait and maybe one with a slightly different one. Maybe you have a shooty one that you want to sit on a backfield objective. You could give him another warlord trait. We'll get into those in a minute. Pack Dogs. This is also in the Imperial Codex. For 1 CP, when a War Dog finishes a charge move, other War Dogs within 12 can reroll charges. Chain Sweep, also Imperial Knight. Roll a d6 for each model within 3 inches. On a 6, unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Only models with a chainsword can use it, obviously. Death Grip is the same exact as an Imperial Knight. With Death Grip, I'm trying to remember exactly what it does. I'm pretty sure you roll off on leadership, and if the opponent fails, they take D3 mortal wounds. That's what I think it is. I know it's the same as the Imperial one, so I'm just going to go with that. Demonic Guidance System. This is another Imperial Knight one that's got ported over. 3 CP, you may target a character with a shield breaker missile even if they are not the closest target. This will be good on your Castellans if you're running them. 3 CP, you could snipe out a character, because I know shield breaker missiles cannot have invulns taken against them. So if you hit, that character is likely dead. So it's really good for nuking a lower health character off the board turn 1. Full Tilt, 2 CP, advance charge. Real straightforward. Devastating Reach. That is also the same as the Imperial Knight Codex. Titanic Duel. 1 CP. Titanic Chaos Knight is fighting another Titanic target. Both players secretly choose a number between 1 and 3. If both players pick the same number, nothing happens. If they pick different numbers, they both get that many extra attacks, but may only target Titanic units. So, that's kind of interesting. Both players are going to want to pick 3, so who knows if it's ever actually going to go off. I would not be greedy and just pick 1 and then hope that I just get 1 extra attack, because that's 3 more stomps. But I don't know if that'll ever see play because of how weird it is, but I mean, it sounds interesting.
I mean, you have to target Titanic, so the stomps don't do much. It's wonky.
Against another knight, they will.
It can be a nice mind game, but I'm not sure how well it will pay off.
Yeah. Trail of Destruction, 2 CP. That one's from the index, actually. That's just reroll hit rolls in the shooting phase, I believe. Fires. Yeah, when he fires Overwatch, he's chosen to shoot or fight Okay, so it's actually a little bit better than it was. It got buffed because now it can be used in the fight phase and Overwatch. So you're just re-rolling the hit rolls. So that's pretty good. Break the enemy line, 2 CP.
For Overwatch 2?
Yeah.
If you have a double Gatling.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Delicious.
You're rolling a lot. Break the enemy line, 2 CP. In the fight phase, pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of an Iconoclast model that made a charge this turn. That night may reroll all hit rolls. So, 2 CP. If you charge with an Iconoclast, you can reroll all hit rolls. So that's pretty good for 2 CP. We already talked about the vows. Bind the sounds of the defeated, 2 CP. So let me find this. Oh, there it is.
The healing one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the healing one. For every model.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, this is really good on that Stompy McStomperson I talked about earlier. For every model you kill, you roll a dice, and on a 4-up, you gain a wound. I mean, it caps out at 6 wounds, but that's like, with 21 stomps, you kill 21 guardsmen. You're definitely getting the 6 wounds. So
that's another last cannon shot you don't have to worry about. So
yeah. So that's really good. I mean, that's going to be really good on a Rampager. Pact with the Dark Gods is another one.
The revive. That's the revival.
I believe so.
For Infernal.
Yeah.
So only for Infernals.
Yeah. Infernal Household. Roll 1d6 at the end of the phase on a 4+ to return the model with D3 wounds. So, could be interesting. Could be interesting on an Infernal guy with the heal stratagem too, because then you could kind of like charge him in if he lives and then heal him back up again. So that could be really annoying. Demonic Ammunition. I like this one a lot, especially because it's going to benefit my build. You pay 1 CP and all your heavy stubbers become strength 5. Double Battle Cannon Knight has 3 heavy stubbers, so that's a lot of strength 5 shots.
That's not bad.
No, so that's going to be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to using that one. That's going to be an auto use for me because I'm going to have so many heavy stubbers. I'm probably going to have heavy stubbers on my Warglaives too, and it just says all heavy stubbers become strength 5. It doesn't even say I have to pick a unit. I don't think so. It might be everything in the detachment that has a heavy stubber. I'd have to look.
That would be kind of nuts.
Yeah, I mean they're AP nothing, damage 1, but making them strength 5, pretty good.
That makes them perfect Primaris killers anyway. So
yeah.
Or Marine killers in general.
They're better at killing Primaris intercessors than the Desecrator's laser destroyer. So, Diabolic Rift, 2 CP. Enemy psychers suffer perils on any roll, not just a double 1 or double 6 when within 12 inches. So this is actually really funny. If you manage to get a knight into the lines of like a Grey Knight player or a Thousand Sons player, they are going to have a hell of a time trying to cast spells, because it's literally any roll just makes them perils, whether it passes, whether it fails, whether it's doubles, whether it's not, just any roll is a perils. So
that is gonna fuck Eldar really, really hard.
Yeah, it's gonna fuck Eldar, it's gonna fuck Grey Knights, it's gonna fuck Thousand Sons.
Probably the Imperial Guard that very much love their Primaris Psychers.
Yeah, but they don't use enough of them to really like. I mean, Eldar, Thousand Sons, and Grey Knights are definitely the biggies. So that is the stratagems. We went over all of those. The artifacts. Now, we don't have as many artifacts as Imperials do, but that's because we don't have households like they do, so we don't have all the household-specific ones. So we'll just go right down the list here. The Tyrant Banner. Chaos units add 1 to their leadership at the start of your turn. On a roll of a 5+, you gain 1 CP. So, this is good if you, like, again, if you have a lot of cultists around you. It does help you CP farm, which is good for knights. And the other thing is, it adds leadership to your knight itself, which is important if you're a Dreadblade, which we'll get to in a little bit. But, yeah, it's an okay artifact. The Teeth That Hunger replaces the Chainsword. It becomes Strength +8. So you're looking at a Strength 16 Chainsword now. AP -4, damage 6, +1 attack. And at the end of the battle round where you don't kill any models, this model suffers 1 mortal wound. So as long as you keep killing, you don't take damage. But if you have an idle round, you do take a wound. It does give you yet another attack. So if you take it on a Rampager, that's yet another attack. I think it has to be with the Chainsword, though. It's going to be wounding everything up to toughness 8 on 2s, which is good. Flat 6 damage, AP -4. It's a pretty good weapon. I mean, once you get into range, it's definitely going to carve stuff up. And it's not going to be hard for the Rampager to get into melee first turn with all the movement buffs you have. I know they're between the Infernal, Demon Surge,
The run and charge.
the run and charge, and the Warlord trait that gives you +1 to your charge and advance rolls, and always fight first. I mean, it'll be pretty good.
That sword is going to be a very decent night killer.
Yeah.
I like it.
The next one is the Rune of Noct to Gra. Dreadblade only. It's a 5++ for ranged and melee. And the model gains an additional pact. So that'll be good for Dreadblades too. Because normally knights, their invuln doesn't extend to melee. This one extends it to melee. So that's pretty good. The Putrid Carapace of Nurgle. This one's pretty interesting. If you have a Nurgle Knight, each time this model makes a successful save in melee on a 4+, the unit that inflicted the wound suffers 1 mortal wound. Now, this is really the only way that you're kind of marking, I guess, your knights, because they don't actually take marks. Like, it doesn't say, hey, Nurgle Knights only on this. Any knight could take it, but I guess as far as your head cannon goes, if your knight's Nurgle, you could take it. Bound Yaradian Psychogeist. When shooting an unmodified roll of a 6, the AP of the attack is improved by 1. So it's like bootleg shuriken cannons. So pretty good if you have a shooty knight. Really good on Avenger Gatling cannons, I guess. But I think there's better artifacts out there for them. But still a decent
if
pick.
you have a lot of 3+ saves on the enemy side, like you're fighting Marines, I think that's decent.
I mean,
for just wiping squads.
I mean, the Avenger Gatling Cannon's already AP -2, so they're only saving on 5s. I don't know if pushing that to 6s really helps enough for me to want to give up the other relics. But
I mean, you're halving the surviving members with that, so
yeah. The Trader's Mark. Enemies within 12 inches are -1 leadership, -2 leadership when they are within 6. I'm not a fan of leadership stuff because there's so many ways to mitigate leadership in this game, which I think is bad. But
it does stack with the Iconoclast household trait, so
yeah,
slight morale bomb.
Now this one I think is going to be good for your melee knights. The Quicksilver Throne of Slanesh, +1 to advance or charge rolls, always fights first. Obviously really good. You're coupled with advance and charge, and coupled with Demon Surge, you're looking at +3 to advance and charge rolls, +2 movement, and you're always fighting first. So that's a really, really fast knight. That's pretty much that's what's going to make first turn charges possible.
Yeah, it's slightly redundant because you want to get the charge anyway, but it's nice to have the first.
Once you get stuck in, I mean, and you never know, you could charge somebody with the same ability, and they offset each other, and then at least you still get to fight first. Gauntlet of Ascension. This is your Thunderstrike Gauntlet relic. Strength ×2, AP -4, damage 6. Each time a character is slain by this weapon, the bearer gains +1 attack and +1 strength. So this is pretty cool. The big thing about this, though, is there's no -1 to hit on it. The normal gauntlet has a -1 to hit modifier. So, pretty good. No modifier. +1 attack, +1 strength. All good. Other relics would be
the Pyrothrone of Tzeentch?
Yeah, the Pyrothrone of Tzeentch, which makes your knight a psyker. All he knows is smite, but I mean, pretty good. I
love it.
If he perils and then dies, he automatically explodes. So there's that. The Diamonas, this is the relic laser destructor, so the only difference is it's heavy 3, flat 3 shots, strength 16. No other difference there. The Veil of Medrin Guard was talked about on the Warhammer community site. That's your 4+ invuln save relic. Blasphemous Engine is for the Infernal Household. It doubles your wounds as far as determining your stats. So on your stat table, doubles your wounds. So to determine if you're bracketed or not. These last two are actually my favorites. Helm of Warpsight is likely the one I'm going to be using. And this one just removes negative modifiers. So you ignore all hit roll modifiers. So this is going to be really great with a shooty knight who needs to take flyers out of the sky. Your -4 to hit Alitok flyers all of a sudden are just getting torn out of the sky by twin Avenger Gatling cannons. I can't wait to see that. It's going to make me very happy inside. So,
small tidbit of information. Anything that changes your weapon or ballistic skill will circumvent that anyway. So, like I think the Evasor Assassin, was it the Evasor or was it the no?
The what?
One of the assassins sets your weapon skill to 6+.
Oh yeah. That guy.
That will circumvent it anyway.
Yeah, the one in melee, the Evisor, I think.
Well, if you shoot him, it's your ballistic skill.
Yeah.
So he will always be hit on a 6 anyway.
Is that the Calidus? I think that's the Calidus.
Could be. Yeah. I don't know. One of the assassins.
I'm not going to use it against him, to be honest. I have different weapons for him. I'd likely just hit him with a flamer. I would love to take a conflagration cannon to his face and just, or whatever the flamer is. I think it's a conflagration cannon. So that's how I'll deal with him. But as far as flyers go, yeah, super cool.
Yeah. Great.
This one is my other favorite for melee knights, and I think this is really, really freaking strong against things like, say, Gilliman, if you happen to get a charge off on him. Once per battle at the start of a fight phase, a model with this relic can activate it. When it does, until the end of that phase, invuln saves cannot be made against attacks made with melee weapons by that model, and invulnerable saves cannot be made for this model. So
for knight.
Yeah, so you charge in with Gilliman and hit him with a couple chain swords to the face, he's gonna die. So that's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of that relic. Anything that strips invulns is good in my book, because I think invulns are stupid, and I don't think they have a place in the game. But that's a debate for another time. So those are all the relics. The warlord traits are slightly underwhelming in my opinion. The best one, I think, is just Knight Diabolus, which is +1 attack. So you're going to be putting that on your melee attack, your melee knights. There's one called Infernal Quest, which gives your knight objective secured, and he counts as 10 models. Warp Haunted Hull lets you deny a psychic power. It doesn't make you a psyker, but it lets you deny a psychic power, and it gives you a 5-up feel no pain against psychic-based mortal wounds. Eager for the Kill, +1 charge and +1 attack while in the opponent's deployment zone. That one I could see being played on like a hyper-aggressive rampager. That's your warlord. You give him that. You give him the Slanesh throne, and you make him infernal. Give him Demon Surge. He runs into their deployment zone and just starts destroying stuff. So that'd be good for him. So that's situationally good. Aura of Terror is, again, a leadership thing. Enemy units within 12 inches are -1 to their charge rolls. Morale for enemy units within 12 is taken on 2d6 instead of 1, discarding the lowest. I guess this is okay if you're worried about smash captains and you want them to have to really make a 10-inch charge. I mean, Harbinger of the Scrap Code is the final one. Each enemy vehicle within 6 inches of the warlord suffers a mortal wound on a 4+ at the end of your movement phase. How often you're going to be within 6 inches of vehicles at the end of your movement phase is debatable. I think this warlord trait would have been better if it was at the end of your charge phase. But, like I said, the warlord traits are kind of underwhelming. But +1 attack is always pretty good. And Eager for the Kill is really good on a hyper-aggressive knight. So, that's those. As far as that's concerned, the only other thing to really talk about is Dreadblades. So Dreadblades are interesting. They are the what are they called on the Imperial side? Free blades?
Free blades.
Free blade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially, they can be Infernal or Iconoclast. They still get that bonus, and then they get extra bonuses on top of it, which I don't personally understand. But, I mean, I guess they think that because you have to take a negative that... But a lot of these negatives are easily circumvented, so I don't know. I if you're not running a Dreadblade, if you're only running a single knight and you're not running a Dreadblade, I don't know what to tell you. Because there's kind of no reason not to run Dreadblades.
It may be to offset the lack of households, because we only get 2 and the Imperials get 12 or something.
Maybe.
Plus the free blades,
but
so we get the Dreadblade on top.
But then I don't see the point to running it just as Iconoclast or just as Infernal, though. So, I mean, maybe all Imperial Knights are considered Dreadblades for Chaos, and they're all either Iconoclast or Infernal, and then you're kind of making your own house. I don't know. But without any real reason to take just the other two, you might as well just take Dreadblade because you get extra stuff. Now, with packs, one Dreadblade per detachment may roll for 2 packs or pick one. They must then choose 2 damnations or roll for 1. Leadership test at the start of your turn. If failed, you suffer the damnation. So the damnations don't even always go off. You have to take a leadership test. Now, I don't know exactly what the leadership test entails because I don't have that in front of me.
It's 2d6 and it must beat your leadership.
Okay, so it's
7th edition 1.
Okay, easy. So yeah, 2d6, and most knights, their leadership is what? Like 9? Yeah, so that's going to be rare because average on 2d6 is 7. So you most of the time you're not even going to have your damnation. You're only going to have your packs. And the packs are really good. I'm just going to go straight down the list. Reroll hit rolls against characters or titans. It's 1. Roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within 1 inch of this knight. When it charges, for each 4+, the unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. Pretty good. Roll a d6 at the start of the game. 1 to 3 is +2 move. 4 and 5 is improved weapon skill by 1. And a 6 improves ballistic skill by 1. This could be silly if you roll a 6 on something like a Crusader equivalent. Have him with a ballistic skill of 2. That'd be just nuts. +1 leadership at the start of the first battle round, and if on the table you gain 1 command point. So this is actually really good because this further mitigates the damnations, and you get a command point. So I think that one's always going to be taken. I'm probably always going to roll for him, though, because all of them are pretty good, and then I get 2, and I'm going to hope for that one being one of them, because it does mitigate the damnations even more.
Take the Dreadblade relic and roll for 3.
Yeah, that's true. Relics are so good, though. It's hard to decide what relics to run because there's so many good ones.
I know.
Any attacks with an AP of -1 count as AP 0 against this knight, so that's really good. Makes you a little more survivable against AP -1 weapons. It's a little situational because not every weapon shooting at you is going to be AP -1, but you never know. Could come in handy. And because it's just extra bonuses on top, I mean, it doesn't really even matter if you get it. It's just gravy. This one's really good. Can perform a heroic intervention, but the range is increased to 6 inches. So 6-inch heroic interventions are really good. Considering most things can only fall back 6 inches, that means... And you can't advance out of melee. That means as soon as their charge phase comes, you can heroically intervene into the thing that just tried to fall back from you. So... could be pretty good if you run into a bunch of infantry. So pretty good. The damnations, knight may not benefit from any stratagems. That could be devastating if it goes off, but I mean there's plenty to mitigate it. Knight may not fall back, and ballistic skill is reduced to 6+. That one would be
neglectable on a melee knight, so have your rampage or dreadblade and whatever.
Yeah, if you're running a melee knight, just pick this one. Pick one. Pick the what would it be? I'd probably just pick the mortal wounds one for my pact, and then I would just pick that one for my damnation and just call it a day.
You have to pick 2 though if you don't roll for the damnations.
Oh, so if I pick 2, I have to pick 2 damnations?
It's either roll twice or pick one for the buffs, and it's pick 2 or roll once for the debuffs.
Okay, so yeah, that's still easy. You take that one as one of your damnations, but the knight must shoot or charge the nearest enemy unit. I mean, you're going to be charging what's closest to you anyway most of the time, so that
Probably,
one,
yeah. And you can still move, so it's the closest anyway. So
yeah. So you just choose those 2, and it's negligible, super easy. Yeah, roll a d6 at the end of any phase. The knight loses a wound. On a 4+, it loses an additional wound. Even that one's not that bad. I mean, if you take a couple wounds, you have a 50-50 chance of just taking one more. I mean, in the overall scheme of things, what's one more wound? That's probably the one that I would probably choose. I'd probably...
Or should be the one that kills you.
Yeah. That's usually how it goes. Yeah, on my night... On my night, because it's shooty, I would probably choose that one, and I would choose always fights last, even if it charged, because I'm very rarely going to be charging. So that'll be good. And then yeah, knight always fights last, even if charged, and knight must shoot or charge nearest enemy unit, and then -1 from advance, charge, and to hit rolls. That one's really bad, so I don't see anybody ever taking that one. So
not voluntarily at least.
Yeah, so that one could actually hurt you a lot. So hopefully that one never goes off on anybody. There's always a chance you could get it though, based off of if you decide to roll or not. So, yeah, that's everything. That's the Dreadblade. So the Knight Codex isn't that long. Obviously, it's not big. It doesn't have near as much as the Imperial Knight Codex even, and even that's a smaller codex. So, I mean, everything in it looks good. It's definitely more melee-centric. There's a lot of buffs to what your knights can do, but they definitely have to get in closer, and they're not nearly as survivable as the Imperial Knights, because the big thing here is your artifact isn't... There's so many good artifacts that it's hard to take the 4+ invuln relic, because you want to take so many other relics, whereas with the Imperial version, it was a Warlord trait. It was much easier to make that decision. So it's going to be interesting, because more often than not, Chaos Knights are going to be rocking on a 5+ invuln, unlike their Imperial counterparts. So that's the interesting thing. The other thing that is pretty noticeable is the lack of a stratagem for fighting at full bracket if damaged. There is a relic that lets you fight as if your wounds were doubled, but once you get down to like single-digit wounds, that's not going to do a whole lot. So I don't really know how exactly they're gonna go, but I do like what I'm seeing. I do think the damage potential is higher, but I do think they're definitely going to be easier to kill. So there is a trade-off there. I think it's interesting. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I want to add something, because correct me if I'm wrong, but summoning demons is for chaos characters.
Yes. Right? So as of right now, knights can summon. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like I figured it out and I was like really, really loud laughing, and my mom was like, "What the fuck is going on, kid?"
Yeah.
Because it's just hilarious. You can just put down like the double Avenger dude, just buff his defense as high as you can, drop down like 10 Plague Bearers, and just shoot all game.
Yeah, not even 10. You could probably easily summon 20. I mean, you get 3d6 to summon. Very easy to get 20 Plague Bearers out there. So you're a knight that can generate his own screen, which
is hilarious.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I don't know, Wayne, how are you feeling about it?
I mean, it definitely sounds like they have some tricks. I agree with you that they don't seem to have as many options as the Imperial ones, but Chaos tends to be used to that. But they do seem pretty strong.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to upend the meta like Imperial Knights did when they first came out. Unfortunately, they received all the same nerfs that Imperial Knights received as far as points cost go and their invuln saves and whatnot. So they're definitely along the same lines. And like I said earlier, being melee-centric puts them at a disadvantage in 40k currently. So, I mean, there's a lot to use and a lot to test here. And I do think, like you said, there's a lot of really good tricks, and I do think we're going to see a lot of these at top-end tables at large events. I do think Chaos Knights are going to shake the meta up a little bit, and I think they're going to add a lot to Chaos, but I don't think they're going to have the same impact on the meta as Imperial Knights did, mostly because they've already been kind of wrangled in. So, do I think they're going to show up in every Chaos list going forward? Probably. I do think they're going to have a place in most competitive Chaos lists. But is it going to be what puts Chaos on top of Imperium or even Inari or Eldar Soup at top tables? I don't know. I think it's kind of like, because Chaos is always pretty competitive with the other top end lists, you know, when it soups up. I think it's a equally effective tool, but I don't think it's going to make us better per se. I just think it's going to make us more versatile. It's going to give us more list choices, but we're still going to be about the same. We're still going to have bad matchups. We're still going to have kind of the same thing is going on. So that should be pretty good. But yeah, that's pretty much everything out of the Knight Codex. It went on pre-order this weekend, so if you're interested in buying the Knight Codex and the 2 new Knight kits, make sure you go down to Games Workshop or your friendly local game store and put a pre-order in for them. I do definitely think they're worth having, so if you were holding off on buying Knights, I think now is the good time to jump in. I don't know, any final thoughts from you two?
I think they're gonna be hit or miss depending on the enemy's list.
Yeah.
But you can probably mitigate a lot of it because the most versatility they get is out of their stratagems.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you pick the completely wrong household for it, you should be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my guess.
Yeah, their stratagems are very strong. A lot of their stratagems are actually just kind of tweaked Imperial Knight warlord traits and artifacts that they made into stratagems for Chaos. So, I mean, that's kind of where we get a little bit of their, like what the Imperial Knights get, but it's just unfortunate because where Imperial Knights or like Imperial Knights got certain things for free as warlord traits or artifacts, we're paying for them as stratagems, and then for things that were warlord traits for Imperial Knights, we're using as artifacts, and our artifacts are very, very top heavy. So there's a lot of good ones in there. So it's really hard to kind of to make choices. You're giving up a lot. No matter what artifact you take, you're giving up some significant aspect of the Chaos Knight. So it's interesting. I don't know, Wayne, final thoughts?
I mean, realistically, I'm probably not going to buy one just because it would deal with wife aggro, but I think they are pretty cool, and I really like how the Rampager looks.
I think you should just buy one because, I mean, the worst thing that could happen is a divorce, and I mean, in the overall...
been through one of those.
Yeah, in the overall scheme of things...
She would take half his army, so...
No, he would give her the house. Just take the house.
I'll buy it for her. I'll be like, hey, honey, you're playing Chaos Knights now.
Yeah, that's what I do. I mean, my brother just picked up Tyranids, so I get it. Much to my persistent persuasion. So.
Yeah, you didn't leave me alone.
Oh man, I don't know if you heard him in the background, but he said I didn't leave him alone. He happens to be here. So my brother, everybody, to the internet out there, he's here in the studio as we finish this up. So likely waiting on me to help him with college stuff. So that's where I'm going after this. So that'll be interesting. Anyway, this has been episode 12 of Cast a Dice, the Warhammer podcast. Chaos Knights, they're looking good. Go out and pre-order them. I know I'm gonna have fun with them. I'm sure they'll be a good time. Charge them into some Orc Boys, Stompy Stomp. Good times. Again, I'm Joe, along with Wayne and Caravan. Everybody have a good weekend, a good week. We'll see you again on the next episode. Keep gaming. Have a good one.